everybody, it's Paige Evans. Thanks for joining me for day 9 of 12 of my 12 Days of Love cut files. Today is a mini album. It's word-shaped, letter-shaped. It's a love-shaped mini album, and I'm excited to show you how I created this mini album. So the cut file includes several options, and I have the original file, and then I have a mirrored file, and then a solid file. So I'm going to show you how I cut out all of the different layers. I'm using my brand new Splendid collection with American Crafts. Starts shipping in April, so I'm sorry to tease you by using it already, but I just couldn't wait to use it. I feel like I'm ready for spring, I'm ready for flowers, and I'm ready for a new collection. So I'm using my new Splendid collection, and I'm trimming pattern papers to fit in the sections that the pages of the album fit in Silhouette Studio. So if it takes up a 3x4 inch space, I'm cutting a piece of pattern paper to 3x4 inches. Whatever size it is in Silhouette Studio, I'm trimming the pattern paper to the coordinating size and placing it on the sticky mat where it is in Silhouette Studio. So then it can cut out all of the pieces for me. So here we go. I'm going to send it to my machine. I'm going to change it to pattern papers, medium, and then I use a ratchet blade and then send. So it takes just a few minutes for it to cut out. This option has holes for stitching because I always love adding hand stitching to my layouts, my mini albums, my projects. So there is an option for this cut file without the stitching holes if you don't want to add hand stitching. So just make sure whichever file you want to cut out and use in the end is what's being cut out in Silhouette Studio. So I am doing the cut file with the stitching holes. So here I've cut out the first set, and I'm going to save these inner pieces and use them as templates to trace some backing pieces later. So I've got the first layer cut out. Now I want to cut out the back side, the mirroring side. So I'm going to move that first layer out of the way, bring in the mirror layer and center it into areas that I can cut pattern papers to the same size, and then repeat. So I'm going to figure out which papers I want to use for the back sides and then trim them. So once again, if it fits a 4x6 inch area in Silhouette Studio, I will trim the piece of pattern paper to 4x6, etc. So for the back sides, I want to use more solid papers. For the front sides, I used busy floral papers. So the mirroring side, I'm going to use more solid, bright pattern papers for some balance. So balancing the busy with the not so busy, I think it helps keep things, more balanced, pleasing to the eye. For the back cover, I wanted a super colorful floral paper, so I chose this one from the 6x8 paper pad. Back in Silhouette Studio, all of the settings are the same, so I'll go ahead and press send, and it's going to cut out these pieces also with the hand stitching holes. Again, you don't have to add hand stitching. It's a completely, totally optional step, but it is one of those things that I really enjoy doing, so anytime I can add hand stitching, I'm a gonna. I love hand stitching. So again, peeling the pages off the mat, and I'm going to save the inner pieces and use them to trace and cut out some backing pieces a little bit later in the video. The final layer is going to be a solid cardstock layer. So once I'm finished hand stitching, I can sandwich the pages onto this cardstock layer, and it just gives the whole mini album more stability and helps the pages not bend. And also it will hide the embroidery because sometimes the back of the hand stitching can be a little messy. So this is just why I included this solid layer. So I'm going to change it to textured cardstock, but I'm going to keep my ratchet blade. That's my preferred blade, and then send it. So the Cameo cuts out this solid layer in just a couple minutes. Here we go. We've got the final layer in my mini album. we're getting there. So I'm gonna piece everything together at this point and see how it's looking. So I grab one of the L's, the white cardstock, the back of the L, the front heart, the solid heart, the back heart, etc. So I've got all my pages together. Looks fun, looks fun. Then I've gone through my embroidery threads and I've found colors of embroidery thread that I want to use to add the hand stitching. And then I actually decided to recut the last pages. I liked the more colorful floral paper for the front E instead of the back of the album, so I just recut those really quick. So now I'm going to do a chain link stitch around all of the pages, the front sides and the back sides. So I have a few different videos where I show how to do the chain link stitch. You basically just create loops together. So I've added a knot to the bottom, to the end of my string. I'm using all 6 strands of DMC embroidery floss. For the first stitch, I just create two stitches through the same first hole, and then once you go out the next hole is when you do the link. So you pass your needle underneath the previous stitch and then go back down through that same stitch. Bring your needle out through the next hole, pass the needle underneath the previous stitch, and then down through the same hole before going out the next hole, and continuously doing loops. So if I'm going too fast for you here, I do have a video where I show my favorite stitches. I believe it's a chain link stitch, a French knot, and a back stitch. There's a few more stitches that I should do videos for, like a running stitch, a whip stitch. I just love hand stitching. So I think it took me about 10, 15, 20 minutes to do the hand stitching around each and every page. And I wear a glove so I don't hurt my fingers as I'm stitching. It creates a protective barrier so my fingers don't get too numb. Tying a knot on the back and then trimming off the excess. So I've got 1 page done, 1 down, 7 to go. And let's see, I'm just gonna flip through it just to make sure I like everything, and I know for sure I want to spend the time hand stitching the rest of these pages. So I've gone ahead and done that. I am finishing up the last page. This is the back cover. So I've used threads that I feel match with my Splendid collection, and I did a chain link stitch on every page. But you could also just do a back stitch, French knots, a whip stitch, change it up and do your favorite stitch, or don't even do the hand stitching at all. Totally, completely optional step. And I included the file without the holes for hand stitching as well. So once again, I'm going to flip through it to show you the hand stitching that I've done with coordinating colors of thread, and it looks good. So at this point, I'm going to create backing pieces for the letters. So I've saved the inner pieces, and I'm going to use those as templates to cut out solid colors, mostly of pattern papers, and as I'm cutting it out, I'm just going to cut about a 1/4 inch wider, so then it has something to grab onto the back of the cut file. So that's how I back the cut file quickly and easily. You could also create an offset of those inner pieces in Silhouette Studio, which I've shown in most of my previous days process videos. Super easy to have the Cameo cut out the backing pieces for you, but I feel like sometimes it's faster to do it by hand. This case is one of those instances where it's just easy to grab the original inner piece and use it as a template to cut out the pattern paper slightly larger. So I'm using my favorite liquid glue, attaching the backing piece in place, and then I'm going to glue that whole page onto the front of the solid piece of white cardstock. So add some glue around the edges, all across the front, and then press the page in place. I'm going to back the back L with the pattern paper that I chose and glue it onto the back of the solid page. And that's what I'm going to do for the rest of the pages. I will show you the process so you can see exactly which papers I used. I am so excited to see how you, or which papers and which collections you use when making this love mini album. I use my Splendid collection, but any collection is going to look great. I'm very excited to see what you make. And you don't have to add the hand stitching, skip that part. And I'm also excited to see what you document. What do you love? I'm using pictures once I get to that point of all kinds of things that I love. And it was only pictures from the month of January, not January, but July 2019. It was a great month. So I just was going back through pictures, trying to pick pictures of things that I loved, and I stumbled across photos from July 2019 when my daughter turned 8 years old. Yep. It was just a great month. So it doesn't even have to be anything in particular. It doesn't have to be some huge event. Just some photos from a random month in our lives turned out to match with this collection and this album perfectly, so I just went with it. All in all, I think this mini album took about 5 hours from start to finish, including the hand stitching. So if you don't do the hand stitching, this album could come together very, very quickly. And then I did want to add machine stitching details. It's a great way to get all of the pages connected together permanently by machine stitching around the edges. I'll show that in just a minute. Right now I'm still putting the album together, adding the backing pieces, gluing them back to back onto the solid cardstock. Again, that's just a way to make the album very sturdy, and it also hides the hand stitching on the back, the embroidery. You could leave out this middle cardstock layer and just sandwich the pattern papers back to back. This is the last page. One more time. I'm going to glue it in place and then we'll move on. But that's the foundation of the album. Now comes the other fun part where you're embellishing and adding the photos and the stories. So let's take a look. We'll flip through it really quick to see what it looks like all assembled. Great. Okay. These are some colorful binder rings, loose leaf 1-inch binder rings that I got from Amazon in pastel colors. And since Splendid has a lot of pastel colors and bright colors, I wanted to use 3 different colors. And the cut file comes with the holes already. It cuts them out so you can just attach everything together super easily with binder rings. So now we're going to move through the album and work on it one page at a time. Some of the things I did off camera just because sometimes I sit and I stare and I think and it just takes me sometimes a long time to figure out exactly the placement. But for the most part, we'll go through it one page at a time. And so I added the colorful mini foam thickers to say all of this. So the finished title is Love All of This. And I grabbed one of the bouquet stickers and put it on the left, a butterfly sticker, and a chipboard flower sticker. I printed my photos at home. I use Adobe Photoshop so I can just open up a blank 8.5 by 11-inch document, drag and drop my photos, and then resize them to whatever size I want before printing them out. And when I trim them out leaving a white border so that there's some contrast between the busy pattern papers and the busy photos. That's why I always like to have a white border. On the back of the first page, this L, I'm just going to fill in the entire L with journaling about what this album is about. It's the photos from July 2019, and then embellishing with all of these fun things from Splendid. So hearts on hearts, words and sentiments and phrases that evoke my feelings from this time of our lives. So So gotta include the hubs in this album, so I had to take some new headshots of him for his business. And I thought about adding these puffy word stickers, puffy letter stickers that say love. In the end, I actually didn't add them here, but I just wanted to show you how I thought about using them, placing them around the curve of this heart from this page. There are some labels, die cuts, so I cut the blue one off and I'll add mini foam stickers on top to say you to complete that sentiment of love you, but I didn't end up using those love letters. I took them off and I'll use them for sure at a later date. So for these pages, there's a lot of blues and greens, so I'm going to grab embellishments that are blues and greens and yellows, layering them here and there, tucking them underneath, adding them on top. Some of these teeny tiny flower stickers from the 8-page sticker book are transparency, so one trick to turn them into die cuts is to add them onto a piece of white cardstock and then trim them out, and that way you can move them around and then glue them in place instead of having the sticker go directly onto the photo. Sometimes that can leave behind a sticky residue if you decide you don't want that sticker right there. So turn it into a die cut simply by adding it onto cardstock and cutting it out. I decided to add pops of color to that spread with additional flowers and die cuts and stickers. So on this spread, adding more pictures, these are the largest pages in the books or in the mini album, so you could add even more photos. And again, just going through Splendid and finding embellishments and icons and sentiments that will help tell the story of what's going on in the photos. So I'm creating a photo mat for these pictures with a whole bouquet of flowers and then topping it with a floral border sticker, more floral die cuts. There is a package of enamel dots and sequins, so I'm adding all the colors of enamel dots onto this page to bring out all of the colors of the floral die cuts that I placed underneath. So these are just little pops of color and eye candy on this page. There are heart-shaped paper clips in Splendid, so I'm just trying to find where I can add one in this mini album because the paper clips are just so cute. I always am trying to find fun places to use them. So in between photos, in some white space or some parts of the photos that I'm not covering up anything important. And then I have put the sequins from that embellishment pack into a separate little baggie. You can just reach in and grab them and glue them in place. So I'll fill in the back side of this V page with more journaling. So if you have more stories that you want to tell, you could add journaling onto each and every page. I believe I just added it onto the back of the L and the back of the V, but there's always creative ways that you can add more journaling here and there to tell the story. On the back cover, this definitely was handmade with love, so I'll add that sentiment sticker. From when I have all of the pages stacked together, I felt like this last page was missing some things peeking out, so I just added a little cluster of embellishments. Going to continue working on the back with this floral border sticker to tie all of the colors together and just playing with what I want on the back side. Once I figured that out, I'm just going to flip through it one more time to see if there's anything else that I want to add. I feel like this floral sticker on the cover just reiterates my love of flowers, and then I'm going to use an entire package of these floral charms from my Splendid collection. There's 6 flowers, so I'll add 2 onto each of the binder rigs, and they just fit right on. So I'll slide them onto the binder rings, and that is the finishing touch, the final step for this mini album. So let's flip through all the things I love from this month. It was July 2019. I used the mini album cut file from my 12 Days of Love cut files and my Splendid collection to create this mini album along with hand stitching details. There it is. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing the process of how this mini album came together. Super excited to see how you use it on your own projects. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow. Have a great day.